Before this video begins, imagine standing beside a broken luxury car worth millions, surrounded by powerful people. When a poor mechanic steps forward and speaks a language no one expects, what happens next will challenge everything you believe about success, talent, and first impressions. Stories like this remind us that greatness is often hidden in the most unexpected places. If you enjoy powerful, real-life style stories that inspire and surprise, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Share this video with someone who needs motivation today, and leave a comment telling us what lesson touched you the most. Now, let's get started with this incredible story. The poor mechanic spent his days inside a narrow garage, squeezed between abandoned shops, where the smell of oil mixed with rust and dust. His hands were rough, his clothes permanently stained, and his face carried the quiet exhaustion of a man who had accepted life's weight. Without complaint, customers rarely came unless they had no other option. To most people, he was invisible, another forgotten worker in a city obsessed with wealth and status. Yet every night, after closing the garage, he carefully cleaned his tools, treating them with respect, as if they were reminders of a life he once lived but never spoke about. On that particular afternoon, the silence of the street was broken by the sound of a luxury car stalling just meters away from his garage. The vehicle looked completely out of place, shining like a jewel among the cracked pavement and faded walls. Several well-dressed men stepped out, speaking hurriedly into their phones, frustration clear on their faces. They tried restarting the engine again and again, but it refused to respond. Their eyes finally turned toward the small garage, hesitation and doubt written clearly in their expressions. The billionaire stepped out last. His presence was commanding, his suit flawless, his watch worth more than the mechanic's entire workshop. He glanced at the garage with clear skepticism. Desperation, not trust, made him nod when his assistant suggested asking the mechanic for help. When the mechanic approached the car, the men exchanged looks, silently questioning whether this poor man could even understand such an advanced machine. The mechanic said nothing. He simply opened the hood and began examining the engine with calm focus. As he connected a diagnostic tool, lines of coded information flashed across the system, filled with Japanese engineering notes and alerts. The mechanic's eyes narrowed slightly. Then, without hesitation, he began speaking fluent Japanese, reading the system messages aloud and explaining the issue in precise technical terms. The assistants froze mid. The billionaire slowly turned, disbelief spreading across his face. None of them understood what was being said, yet the tone, fluency, and confidence made it clear this was no act. The mechanic continued, his voice steady, explaining that a major failure but a small problem wasn't miscommunication between two systems, something common in this specific Japanese model. He spoke as if he had seen this issue many times before. The billionaire, stunned, interrupted him, asking in broken Japanese if he truly understood the language. The mechanic calmly answered, still in Japanese, confirming not only his understanding but also his familiarity with the car's design philosophy. Silence followed. Then the billionaire asked him, this time in English, who he really was. The mechanic paused for the first time. He explained that years ago, he had studied and worked in Japan as a junior engineer, learning both the language and advanced automotive systems. He had dreams, certifications, and a promising future. But after a family tragedy, he returned home to take responsibility, leaving his career behind. Life forced him into survival mode, and eventually, people stopped asking questions. He fixed the issue within minutes. The engine came back to life, smooth and powerful, as if nothing had ever been wrong. The billionaire looked at the mechanic differently now, not as a poor worker, but as a man of rare discipline and hidden depth. The assistants stood silent, embarrassed by their earlier doubts. The mechanic wiped his hands, stepped back, and waited, unaware that this moment was about to change everything. The billionaire stood there, for a long moment, staring at the mechanic as if trying to reconcile the man before him with everything he thought he knew about success and failure. The street felt unusually quiet. Even the assistants, who moments earlier had been impatient and dismissive, now avoided eye contact, clearly shaken by how wrong their assumptions had been. The billionaire finally broke the silence and asked the mechanic why someone with his skills was working in a forgotten garage instead of leading a team at a global company. The mechanic answered honestly. He spoke about responsibility, about choosing family over ambition, about how life sometimes closes doors without asking for permission. He explained that when he returned from Japan, no company wanted to hire someone with a broken career timeline and no connections. Over time, he stopped explaining himself. Fixing cars became enough to survive, and survival slowly replaced dreams. His voice carried no bitterness, only quiet acceptance. The billionaire listened carefully. This was a man who had built his empire by recognizing talent, yet he had almost driven past it today. He asked the mechanic to describe in detail how he had diagnosed the problem so quickly, The mechanic explained the logic behind Japanese engineering, the philosophy of precision, balance, and respect for small details. As he spoke, the billionaire realized he was listening to someone who didn't just fix machines, but understood them deeply. Right there on the street, the billionaire made a decision. He offered the mechanic a position with access to resources, engineers, technical consultant for his automotive division far beyond this small garage. He also offered to invest in the mechanic's workshop, transforming it into a certified service center that would train young mechanics who, like him, had talent but no opportunity. The assistants looked shocked. This was not a casual offer. It was life-changing. The mechanic didn't answer immediately. He looked around his garage, at the cracked walls, the old tools, the place that had kept him alive when nothing else did. Then he looked at his hands, worn but steady. He said he would accept, but only if he could continue, teaching local apprentices and giving chances to people who were often ignored. The billionaire smiled, realizing that true greatness often comes with humility. Weeks later, the garage was no longer forgotten. New equipment arrived, the walls were repaired, and young trainees filled the space with energy and hope. The mechanic worked alongside engineers from around the world, switching effortlessly between languages and systems. Yet he remained the same man, calm, focused, and grounded. He never wore expensive suits. He never bragged. His respect came not from status, but from consistency. The billionaire often visited, sometimes just to watch him work. One day, he admitted that the most shocking part wasn't hearing Japanese from a poor mechanic, but realizing how close he had come to overlooking true value because of appearance. That moment changed how he led his companies and how he treated people at every level. The story spread quietly, not as a headline, but as a lesson. Talent does not disappear just because life becomes hard. Knowledge does not fade because clothes are worn. And sometimes, the person who changes everything is the one everyone thought understood nothing at all.